Did you know that 10% of women have never had an orgasm? No, I'm going to say that again. 10% of women have never had an orgasm. And when I read that, I was just like, that's just sad that 10% of women have never had an orgasm before. And when I read that statistic, it was just like baffling to me. And so I've been doing a lot of reading. There's this book that I just recently discovered. It's called The Anatomy of Women's Arousal. This book is highly educational, and what they explained in it, which I thought was really, really interesting, was that up until the point in which they started dissecting human bodies, which has only been in the last couple hundred years since they've been dissecting human bodies to find out the cause of death, has up until then they actually really didn't know that much about the female body. And per this book, actually is in regards to really knowing what was going on within the female body wasn't really discovered until the invention of the microscope, because we have hidden parts and smaller parts than men. And so therefore, what's going on with us physically and sexually just isn't right out there like it is with dudes, right? So the bullshit that you were sold, and that we were all sold, which happened to be years and years and years and years ago, before all of the medical books and all of these books started to be written, was that our bodies worked like men's, and they don't. They just don't. As you start to learn the science behind it, actually, I'm not going to go into all the science behind female orgasm and female arousal, because these books are really awesome. I highly encourage you go into and read them and do the self-exploration yourself. However, with a man's body, they say it's like he can heat up really fast and it's ready to go really fast. And we all know that a woman's body, it takes about 20 minutes to get us warm. And so the bullshit story that we have all been sold, is that our bodies work like men, right? Because here's the interesting thing. Before all of this science was known about the female body, all of this has been documented by men. Okay, and the human sexuality has always been documented by men, where there was like this initial root goal that we were getting into, right, with the explosion, and then that we were going to come down. And what's happened to so many women is when their bodies don't mimic this behavior of men, then they end up feeling like a failure. And they assume something is wrong with them, because they've been sold a story that their bodies work like men, but their bodies don't work like men. And so when we assume that our bodies work a certain way, or we've been told our bodies should work a certain way, and then they don't work that way, then we feel like we're a failure. And we feel like something's wrong with us. And so then we give up. Like, maybe I'm just one of those people who aren't supposed to have orgasms, which is just sad and which just isn't true. But this is one piece of this fact that I'm going to share with you guys. Literally, ladies. Okay, so many women experience orgasm, say, early in their sexual exploration, because it's more about foreplay and external action. But what I've discovered in just the last couple of months, that the clitoris that we have, that is like, it's like the iceberg, and we think that it's a solo project of its own, but actually the clitoris has legs, and the clitoris's legs go down into the labia, which is the lips, and it goes down into the vagina, into the G-spot. And so many women have great experience with external foreplay and petting action, but then when they go to have sex for the first time, a lot of times when we're on our sexual exploration, and it goes from heavy petting into penetration, then that's what it becomes, and it becomes about sex, and it becomes about that sort of physical action. And then what happens is not as much emphasis is being put on the foreplay or the what they've linked to a woman's ability to have an orgasm during penetration is directly linked to the distance between her clitoris and her vaginal opening. And if it's like a certain distance away from the likeliness of you being able to have an orgasm during penetration goes way down. So again, nothing is wrong with you. Your body is just a little bit different. So you need a little bit different of a stimulation in order to get you there. Maybe you need slower. Maybe you need your man to not go, or your woman, to not go straight to the trigger right at first and warm you up, because we're like water that has to be warmed up to a bubble, and we have to feel safe. And the moment we don't feel safe is the moment we shut down and we don't allow ourselves to open up and let go. So if you're one of those women out there who has either never had an orgasm or who struggles to have regular, consistent orgasms, contemplate that maybe you have been sold a bullshit story of thinking that your orgasm was supposed to look a certain way. Consider that and know that our bodies are just different, and it's time to learn the different roadmaps of our bodies. Or maybe it's just that when you got to a certain age and you and your partner shifted from as much foreplay and went straight to penetration, then you're missing a lot of the stepping stones that's going to get you hot enough to be able to get you there. And then if your clitoris isn't as close to your vaginal opening, then it's not going to happen as easily anyway. So just start to open up your idea in your mind that there's nothing actually wrong with you. You might just need a different roadmap. You might need to slow down a little bit. And my next suggestion is to spend a little time with yourself. And when there's not that added pressure of someone expecting you to perform or to achieve or hit the finish line, if there's no one there waiting for you to have that and has that expectation of you, and you're just there witnessing what happens and exploring your own body, then the pressure isn't going to be there, and you're going to have a higher probability of actually success. Because when we eliminate the pressure and we just open up to the pleasure and to the joy, that's when the juice happens. So I hope this serves you well. If you appreciated this conversation in any way, shape, or form, please like it, please love it, please give me a thumbs up. If you enjoy conversations like this, I'm actually going to be doing an all-women's accountability group that's talking about this sort of stuff that's not necessarily fitness and nutrition based like the focus has been on some of my groups in the past, because I'm feeling really passionate and inspired about helping us as women achieve the most pleasure and joy out of this life as we potentially can. And that starts with enjoying our physical bodies, because we're physical beings having a physical experience, even though we also may be spiritual beings having a physical experience. But let's just enjoy our physical experience, shall we? Anyway, peace, love, and fairy dust.